Today, we're talking about recognizing the real loss in estrangement. You know that estrangement results in the loss of a relationship, either temporarily or permanently. Whether it's a son, a daughter, a parent, a sibling, or someone else, the loss is profound. You'll grieve the good memories of the relationship that existed before estrangement and hope for reconciliation one day. However, many women I speak with express a deep sadness with the realization that wasn't readily identifiable at the outset. Recognizing the real loss and estrangement comes as you realize it isn't just you and your loved one, it extends to other relationships too. But there is hope, and I want to encourage you today with some truths and tips. So let's sit together for a few minutes, and I hope you'll find some healing. Find the full transcript for this episode, plus resources for women at Estrangement, Turning Pain into Peace at beckykolb.com/77. You're listening to Estrangement, Turning Pain into Peace, a podcast and free resource for women with estranged relationships, created by me, host and coach Becky Kolb. My superpower is to help you turn your emotional pain into peace by conquering guilt and shame, rebuilding self-confidence, and developing healthy boundaries. I've dealt with estranged relationships most of my life and know both the pain and the peace. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a thing. Now, let's dive into today's episode. A dear friend's daughter decided to walk away from the relationship with her mom 20 years ago. She was aware of some issues between them, but nothing to warrant a complete rejection of her, the mom who gave birth, nurtured, and loved her. For a few years, she had a relationship with the daughter and her grandkids. Old issues began to arise, and the daughter began pulling away. Shortly after, she began to distance her kids from my friend, and before long, it was full-on estrangement with the daughter and grandkids, and it's now been over 20 years. My friend longs to see her daughter and grandkids, to know that they are well and happy. She's missed their growing up years and wonders if they even remember her and the fun outings they used to enjoy together. The real loss in a estranged daughter extended to a son-in-law and 3 grandkids, and the roles that disappeared when they walked away. That's a heavy load to carry. It's often that way in estrangement. Rarely does it affect only the 2 people involved. Entire families have been disrupted by one person's decision to walk away. I don't know your specific story, but I can imagine it's painful and extends to relationships other than just a son or daughter. Emotionally, it's hard to wrap your head around your own child abandoning a relationship, but involving grandkids or others is harsh and cruel. And as hard as you try to make amends, you'll learn quickly that you don't have any control. The first encouragement I want to give you is that you may not have control over their decision, but you certainly have control over you. You'll wear yourself out trying to ascertain the reasons behind the estrangement. Questions will linger in your mind as you try to figure out what happened that warranted this behavior. And you can't force an answer. Your son or daughter may simply refuse to give an answer. Then you quit asking, not because you don't want to know, but because you know they aren't going to be forthcoming with the truth. When that happens, you may feel as though you're losing your mind. You begin to imagine things. That's completely normal when you're carrying such a heavy emotional load. I say this from experience. Recognizing the real loss of estrangement will begin to come into focus, and that's when you learn that the only control you have is over yourself. The first step in taking control is to name the loss. For my friend, it was her daughter, son-in-law, and 3 grandchildren. She felt she no longer had a role as mom, mother-in-law, or grandmother. Or did she? She was still a mom, a mother-in-law, and a grandmother. Refuse to allow anyone to deny that of you. You must respect their wishes to have no relationship, but you do not have to dismiss your roles completely. Once you name the loss in your estrangement, you'll feel a sense of power. No longer do you have to live with guilt and shame and talking about the estrangement. You've acknowledged it, admitted where the relationship stands. If it was a secret, it is no longer. My friend, there is serious power in that. You don't have to bury that pain or pretend it isn't there. It's okay to talk about the loss and mourn the relationship you thought you would have with your loved ones. A wise person once said to me, "Feel the emotion, but don't live with it." In other words, don't let it consume you. Acknowledge it for what it is, and then resolve to move on. And then you can redirect your roles. In recognizing the real loss and estrangement, if you learn to redirect your roles, you'll find peace. Are there other children with whom you are not estranged? Can you find joy and peace in those relationships? One of my greatest joys was finding fulfillment in my role as step-grandparent to my husband's grandkids. Can you volunteer in an activity that needs a grandmother figure? A church nursery is a wonderful place to love on and nurture little ones. Mentoring is a fantastic way to connect. I can't speak this morning. Mentoring is a fantastic way to connect with young girls who need a role model. Research volunteer opportunities in your community and church where you can exercise your role and help others simultaneously. You'll never replace the role you have with your own kids or grandkids, but you can find enjoyment in loving on and caring for others in the meantime. Think back to your role as a mom when your kids were smaller. You dreamed of the day they would get married and have their own kids. Being a grandmother is one of life's greatest blessings. I imagine you had expectations of what life would look like at that stage, right? I know I did. Although my son lived far away in another state, we discussed alternating each year so that we could see the grandkids at holidays. And that worked for a couple of years, but before distance began to be the norm. You can have good intentions, they don't always work out. Expectations create a haven for emotional upheaval. Once your kids marry, they'll figure out what they want their lives to look like, and hopefully it will include meaningful time with you. My friend, if you live and die by your expectations with your family relationships, you will discover heartache. Learn to let go and let them define their own lives and traditions. The more you criticize and complain, the longer the estrangement may be. Of course you'll be disappointed, and you have every right to express your feelings, but proceed with caution. Part of being a mom to an adult child is learning to zip your mouth. Believe me, I learned that one the hard way. Recognizing the real loss and estrangement is emotionally heavy. It's a burden I would wish on no one. Being denied a relationship with your grandkids is hurtful, not only to you, but to them as well. If reconciliation is your goal, as I hope it is, I can help improve your chances with the lessons and strategies I learned. You don't have to make the same mistakes. I'm happy to say that I have a good relationship with my son today. My daughter-in-law chose to remain estranged, and although it saddens me, I will abide by her wishes. Sometimes you have to recognize that there are issues you just can't fix and allow a loved one the space they need to figure out their life and determine how they want to live. You can pray for them and work on your own life so that you're in a better position for reconciliation discussion. So to recap today's episode, remember, name the loss, acknowledging the pain, and let it go. Redirect your roles in other ways to find your own joy and fulfillment. And then let the expectations go. You will discover a happier and more meaningful life. Until next time, my prayers are always with my listeners, and know that I understand the devastation you feel in recognizing the real loss and estrangement. I also know that you can find peace and happiness. And if you want to explore coaching, I offer a free consultation. Just go to beckykolb.com/consultation. Thanks for listening to Estrangement, Turning Pain into Peace. Estrangement is a difficult topic for many, and I applaud you for tuning in. Don't forget to check out earlier episodes too, and please share this with others who may need to hear. And if you're getting value, I would appreciate a short review.